Hey guys, it's Matt. At least 3 more questions and answers today for Chapter 47 of the Unnamed Reality book. The first one will be the longest segment, at least a half hour, on what is the magenta. Talked about it many times in the past. This is the final adaptation for the book, the final that someday hopefully will be in print. The second question is about the word initiation. The theme of that is I'm getting kind of sick, or I am sick of hearing about that. What I think that really means. Of course, it's always associated with being inducted into a secret society. That will be a little bit different. And then the shortest Q&A will be the last one. What is the English language? Which we all know, so I'll cover that quickly. Before formally starting Chapter 47, I want to talk for a few minutes about the horrible movie that I felt I had to watch last night, The Color Out of Space, the Lovecraft adaptation about the invading color, which the Nick Cage movie presents as magenta. It looks like in the Lovecraft, the H.P. Lovecraft, it's not a magenta. The cover of the old book is various colors. So the Not Milk in some way, we'll talk about it for a few minutes, but it was a horrible experience. The Color Out of Space, in certain respects, was one of the worst movies I've ever seen, especially from a dialogue perspective. The elementary school could have written better dialogue. However, the way it was filmed was rather professional. Whoever did the directing or the camera aspects, that was well done. It had a rich feel to it that amateurs couldn't do. The dialogue was written by the first graders down the road here. Point is, don't ever see the movie. A meteorite strikes, a color starts to invade Nicolas Cage's world. It's magenta, 100% magenta. Everybody starts to lose their mind, act differently. An invading color, even the way it's described in the write-up, an invasion via a color of mind and body. Well, that's potentially, or very likely, in a way, what's going on with the magenta related to this new technological push through AI. Matt, obviously you watched the movie for obvious truth drops. There really weren't any other than the blatant theme itself. I think it's a 2020 movie. It's a 2020 movie. It's like the Not Milk had to show you that the magenta invasion is coming or was about to start. Right when the movie was made was when this magenta was off the charts. Everybody around us just thinks it's normal that magenta is presented in tens of thousands of different places. It wasn't presented just 5 years ago. In the movie, the magenta color overwhelms people, and they become something that they're truly not. They change their personality. They hurt themselves. The mother somehow merged in some sick way with the small child. They become something they're not. And that's... we knew that's what they're trying to do with the magenta anyway. What a waste of time. I should write Nick Cage a personal letter demanding whatever I had to rent it for $3.90. Nick Cage, you wasted my time, sir. Sorry, I had to go back in and add this 30 seconds before starting Chapter 47. You could have put any actor in the known world in this role, and it would have been better as a movie than putting in Nick Cage. Now, he was wonderful and probably going back as far as Raising Arizona and Moonstruck. All you noticed was how horrible and how out of place and like over the hill Nick Cage was in this movie. I just can't describe how horrible. Sorry, let me start Chapter 47. Question. What's with this magenta color we're seeing all over the place since about 2020? Well, as you know by now, I think reality is very fluid. It only appears very fixed. Remember, the senses take in less than 1% of all available information that the universe hands out. The senses take in less than 1%. That ain't shit. In all honesty, there's no point in scientific experimentation when you only get 1%. And then after you get that 1%, it's warped by a lifetime of bias and expectation. The experiment where you get your shitty 1% can be influenced by the expectation of the real consciousness performing the experiment? Yes. Here's a strange example. There's a man somewhere in Georgia right now who sings 1% as good as Aretha Franklin. And that same man plays guitar 1% as good as Eric Clapton. Now, how well do you think he'll do on tour? You see, if you only get 1%, it's almost like not even worth showing up for your experiments, because the word objective in experiment may be impossible if you only get 1%. Now, I think certain minions on behalf of the Not Milk know how to manipulate reality to some degree. They didn't find that out via some grant they gave to some university research park. Apparently, they've known this for a very, very long time. And their techniques are getting better because of the technology. Like we've talked about, I think they absolutely know that the course of mainstream science at the university research parks in most areas are just spinning their wheels, wasting their time. These minions know that this research is going nowhere, yet they continue to fund it. These creeps understand the importance of color in how reality presents itself. Emerald green is the color of the heart chakra, trees, grass. Overall, in my opinion, the emerald green that we've looked at is good. It's a natural part of this system. This thing here we call knot milk has featured the emerald green color in hundreds of different ways in its movies and its media. No one application in terms of how the knot milk has presented the emerald green really reveals the meaning. You have to look at it as a whole to see what the knot milk has attempted to do with the emerald green. This will transition into the magenta. So the emerald green color is the color of Satan in John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. Satan is presented as exactly the emerald green. That doesn't mean we can just assign evil to emerald green, not at all. It's also the color at the end of Daisy's Dock, at the close of The Great Gatsby. I believe the use of the emerald green is a representation of the illusion of this world. Put a big equal sign between them. Illusion of this world equals emerald green. That does not mean, though, the trick of the outer screen. The illusion of this world is not the nefarious or sinister trick of the outer ring or knot milk. The emerald green means illusion. They're two separate things, in my opinion. The game board of this world is fluid. It's a fluid illusion of some sort. That's neither good nor bad. It's just the way it was designed. A fluid reality does not mean a sinister matrix like the movie presents, although the first three movies do have a green tone, which of course is by design, but we'll talk about that some other time. A fluid reality, a presentation of an illusion of sorts, just the way this place was designed for real spirits. It's neither good nor bad. The knot milk and its minions, in my opinion, attempt to hijack or adulterate the illusion of this world in its favor. One way they do that is with color. They have many ways, it seems, in which they can do that. After they massage it with their greasy tentacles, massaging the illusion of this world itself because they understand how it fundamentally or metaphysically works, what comes out the other side, after they, quote, mess with it, is then closer to what they desire. But they're evil genius at getting people in the masses to believe that nothing has happened, or if it's noticed, that what has happened is just a normal progression of a modern society. Here's a good analogy. Remember in the movie Step Brothers, John C. Reilly confronted Will Ferrell, and he said, "You touched my drum set, didn't you?" Will Ferrell said, "No, I didn't touch your drum set. You touched my drum set." He knew he touched the drum set. Will Ferrell put one of the drumsticks back like a half an inch away of where it should be, and John C. Reilly knew, "You touched my drum set." In this analogy, the drum set represents society and culture, and Will Ferrell represents the knot milk trying to mess with it. But not mess with it, we're putting it back the way it was. The drum set's completely upside down. There's syrup all over it. It's smashed through. A part of it's hanging from the ceiling with a hole punched in the ceiling. Then the knot milk says that it doesn't do what Will Ferrell and say, "I didn't do anything." The knot milk then goes to the people and say, "This is the way it should be." And the people go, "Oh, okay, this is the way the drum set is supposed to be." And then if the people said, "Well, you still touched it," we did touch it, but this is the way a modern society evolves. And then my friend Tony reminds me of that. Matt, there'll always be corruption in government. It's just the natural way of things in a society that allows freedom. It's still better than communism, Matt. Is that what you want? Let me repeat the key part of this section. There's no doubt the knot milk, and through its minions, attempts to hijack or adulterate the illusion of this world in its favor. Of course it does. One of the ways it does that is through color. Now, minion tactics were, of course, more primitive as you go back through time. It doesn't have access in the 1600s to the Apple iPhone, but this use of color, it probably goes back, and this is based on nothing but intuition, probably goes back to purple. And all the first grade truthers will come forth and say, "Well, Matt, didn't you do your research? Don't you know that only the elites and the royalty could produce purple, the combination of red and blue, and they could only produce it, which separated the elites from the..." "Oh, you parrot back your first grade stuff. You keep parrot back your first grade stuff." The purple, even in a way, was probably a way using color over the masses. Who knows what the French Revolution really was? Maybe they ran out of purple dye, and then all the people woke up one day and said, "Get out, get them now!" Who knows? What they know about how to manipulate the masses goes back a long way. I think these creeps have been around a long time. Here's a new slogan that rhymes. If anybody's new, these creeps aren't the same as you. If anybody here is new, it's best news of all time. If anybody's new, these creeps aren't the same as you. That's the best news of all time. Regarding this ugly magenta color that's popping up all over the place since about 2020, the most polite thing I can say about it is I don't really have a positive feeling about the Not Milk's use of it or television's use of it during the Super Bowl. Do you get a positive feeling? I don't. Kind of like, imagine how you would feel in a cross-country flight if you were in the middle seat between Whoopi Goldberg on one side, she was on the window, say, and Ellen DeGeneres was on the aisle, and you were the middle seat. You'd demand to get off the flight. Have the doors closed yet? I want off. That's the way the magenta makes me feel. To me, all this magenta all over the place since 2020 is an expression of sinister intent or a symptom of reality sliding towards the digital into a lower form. I believe magenta is associated with the AI. And the next phase, these creeps want to devolve the human being into, trying to move all of us closer into the digital, as we discussed during the section on what is the Not Milk's current tactic. If things with the masses don't change very quickly, it will eventually succeed, I'm sorry to say. You have Matt Wolf saying it's the greatest time to be alive, and isn't it wonderful, all this AI? And okay, it's not just the people into AI like Matt Wolf. I mean, you people around you that gets need and they want to get involved with it and they want their headsets. And unfortunately, if things don't change, I'm sorry to say, what am I supposed to pretend? It will eventually succeed. It will soon get people to merge in some way with whatever we call the digital. Facebook changed its name to Meta for a reason. They're always pushing the masses into the next level of dehumanization. The attempt to move the human to a lower level is nothing new for these creeps or this Not Milk. It's likely happened for as long as this place has been here. It's almost assured that many of the minions that serve the Not Milk are not the same spiritual entity that you are. They're role players here. It's like punching a time card. Morning, Red. Morning, Sam. They're role players here. This place needs assholes for it to do what it needs to do for real spiritual development. The first grade truther just believes this is supposed to be some wonderful utopia of free coconut lotion. Just palm trees, free coconut lotion. But then an evil got in. Oh, it shows you in heavy metal. That green glow came. Emerald green, isn't that interesting? The Lochnar came. And then it was hijacked. The reality was hijacked. The reality was hijacked, according to the first grade truther. Matt, this evil's not supposed to be here. It got in here somehow. So let me get this straight. You're really smart, 22 Mile to Davenport. The all-powerful, imagine the power of the entity that built this reality system. You think that we'll just call it all-powerful entity? Who knows what it was? It doesn't matter. I'm not supposed to know it in this place. I'm supposed to be Tommy, the deaf, dumb, and blind kid. So the, quote, all-powerful entity that built this place couldn't keep the evil element out. And then once they found out the evil element was in here, then they were powerless to do anything about it. The all-powerful entity that built this place, powerful to stop the likes of Santa Claus Schwab and build the Melvin P. Gates. Oh, sure. Yeah, I would say it's more likely that they're role players here and the asshole element is intended. That's just me. Now, the only thing that can be argued, in my opinion, is the asshole element has overstepped its bounds or potentially argued that it's broken its contract. It's gone too far with the likes of what happened in 2001 and 2020. Some people argue that, and I pay attention to that argument. Matt, there's always supposed to be assholes, but don't you think they're getting out of control or maybe they've broken contract? Yeah, okay, it's worth talking about. It doesn't matter. At this point, the creeps are going to do what they're going to do. Who cares? You know why? It doesn't work on us. Who cares? It doesn't work on us. So be it. But getting back to what we're talking about, they never rest. They never tire. They never put their feet up. Now, it's a weaponized color to some degree called magenta. That in some way is an expression of the lower form, the digital lifestyle that they want everybody introduced through Zuckerberg's Meta. He says, every time I picture that creep, it makes me laugh. Zuckerberg in front of his, was it his big green egg griller talking about his sweet baby Ray's grilling sauce? I mean, he probably can't buy a corn dog without permission either. Okay, so there's no doubt everybody listening here agrees that they want to move the human into the lower form of reality, the digital. Now, there's three main ways it seems like they're trying to do that. The magenta is either a representation of the attempt, a symptom of the attempt being successful, flowing out of reality itself. We'll get to that. Or they're using, the way T-Mobile presents the magenta, they're using it some way to, like you would put a food treat in front of an animal to somehow it affects the mind, the Nick Cage movie, The Color from Outer Space. Somehow it facilitates a move into the digital. So three main areas. One, of course, the Ray Kurzweil runs around and talks about, as does Elon Musk, getting the brain chip. No doubt they're interested in that. Two is, this has kind of gone away, but we used to talk about consciousness actually uploaded somehow to a computer environment. That's kind of gone away. It's kind of impossible because if something was uploaded, it wouldn't really be you. So we'll let that one alone. The third being what we've talked about more recently, a slow slide of progression into the digital, where you've put on so many VR headsets or you've entered a digital environment so many times that you, quote, wake up believing it's the real world when you've stepped into a digital world. That's more likely, in my opinion, the way they're proceeding. At this point, it's very important to pause and to recognize the one and only goal of everything it does. What? One and only goal of every single thing it does boils down to one sentence every single time. Do the Tartaria people talk about this? Its goal is to move a real person away from its own spiritual side and to hide that aspect from itself. That's it. A digital world would do that. Its goal is always the same sentence. Let's not forget that. Actually, it goes right back to the opening line of Melvin and Bezos, where Melvin says, hey, Bezos, how are we going to screw these people out this week, Bezos? How are we going to screw these people this week, Bezos? Always the same interpretation. Only means one thing to them. How are we going to move them away from that side of the Vitruvian Man? How are we going to hide spiritual self from them? Maybe 15 years ago, I know it doesn't work like this, but it's the only way we can comprehend it. 15 years ago, somebody raised a hand in a creepy meeting and tried to interrupt the Baphomet and said, by the way, the technology's coming, or we can actually consider now moving these people into a digital world. What? Who are you? Tell me about. We can consider moving them into a digital world. The technology's coming. And once they get there, they'll completely forget about their spiritual selves. And will they put their feet up and rest? No, they'll weaponize something else after that. They're never satisfied, but they say, we can do this. It'll just take 15 to 20 years. Well, we're recruiting people right now. See, this would go back to when Zuck the Borg was like playing around on the servers of Harvard or whatever. We got this Peckerwood boy in Harvard. We're going to bring him along, this Peckerwood boy, and we'll give him Facebook. Then we'll eventually tell him to make Meta. He'll be key along with these other Peckerwoods in terms of getting the real people into the digital. And they all sinisterly laughed as monkeys in front of the Baphomet. One could argue that, quote, humanity has moved itself away many times from its spiritual self. This is nothing new, okay? But the current phase, of course, is this breakthrough technology. They've done it in many ways. So one could argue the people on the street, they've lost their spiritual selves already, but the creeps never rest. The next phase, and then there'll be a phase after that, it never rests. It further cuts off the Vitruvian Man's spiritual arm. I think the magenta now represents that process and facilitates that process. There's two main things to talk about regarding the magenta. Number one, and I'm sorry, I don't have any more specifics than this. I didn't pay attention at the last Eyes Wide Shut party. It's the intentional use of the magenta in some way influences reality itself, or you may prefer it put like this, the color magenta in some way influences real people from which reality is derived. I think they choose, at this moment in history, to use magenta whenever possible to aid what they're trying to accomplish in moving the human away or towards the digital. And at the same time, though, I think the magenta color is bleeding into reality as a byproduct or a symptom of the technology or the AI or the slide into digital, as a symptom or byproduct of how real people are adopting and accepting and slowly moving into the digital world. Yes, I believe actually using a color, in this case magenta, aids their creepy plans. Reality is derived from the collective consciousness, from us. They know that. Two things going on. The intentional use of magenta, for example, all over the Super Bowl, all over this year's Super Bowl. Magenta status, T-Mobile. Those listening to me right now, do you want magenta status? I think magenta status probably means you fully accepted the digital and you've Horcruxed off your spiritual self into Lord Voldemort's snake or Ravenclaw's lost item. If you Horcrux off yourself, then I have magenta status. You have magenta status. 10% off your T-Mobile bill, and don't switch to Mint. It's also bleeding through reality. Remember in the movie Back to School, Lou is nice and he's tough. Regarding the magenta, it's number one, intentionally being used. It's a weaponized color. No doubt about that. We all would agree with that. We don't know exactly or we may disagree on exactly what the outcome is, but we can see it's weaponized by Notnilk. There's not one person, if you're new here listening to this, that doesn't see that. We might disagree on the other side. Is it actually, per my theory, researchers like Jeff, bleeding into reality itself as a byproduct or a symptom of other things, or real humans making certain choices, etc. That is where we're not as sure. I guess there could be a few new people here that question that magenta can be used as a weapon, but to the old guard, I mean, this is a given. I mean, this isn't a stretch at all. The use of color to influence mood has been well documented in medical journals, for example, for 100 years or more. The use of color to influence mood, that is a form of mind control by a certain definition. There have been hundreds of scientific experiments on university research parks in this regard. Of course, their use of magenta is way beyond simply influencing mood. There's no doubt it's more sinister than that. It's not just a pacify like fluoride, for example. It's worse. Okay, there's no doubt. Well, the old guard would agree. Okay, there's just too much magenta presentation, especially since, or maybe in some way it's aligned to the 2020 See the V Me and all that nonsense, but at the very minimum, somebody may say, it conditions the masses to accept the digital world, to accept the technology that's coming, to accept the AI. I think it's much more than that, but that's for starters. There are many possibilities. There's no point really in speculating any further than we already have. We know, the old guard agrees, it represents something sinister. It's always playing its same game, hiding the real person from their spiritual selves. The last part, the best news of all time, it doesn't work on us. There are many strange things going on regarding the color magenta, and many of them can only be described as supernatural. We just don't have any other words. Researchers like me, Jeff, and others are now about 100% convinced the magenta is bleeding into old videos, where, say, in the past, the magenta did not exist in the video, did not potentially exist in the initial scene when it was first filmed. We've seen too many examples that point to this. You just have to trust me. Don't want me to do 5, 6, 7 hours of listing them out here. Jeff just sent me, I might have mentioned it before, was it inauguration of Harry Truman, or I don't know, one of the earliest videos of a presidential parade after inauguration. The magenta's like, it's just a split second. Magenta's flashing into old black and white. Matt, the creeps could have the creeps could have put that in. But we've seen too much of this. We've seen in old home movies. We'll just talk about it later. Okay, the point is, it's not just me. Others see it actually showing up or presenting itself in some way in old videos. Okay, how's that even possible? There are situations regarding newer movies or more bigger production movies, not just home movies, where it's the other end of the scale. The production company, movie maker, or movie studio went back and changed it. The best example is the opening scene of what I'll call the first Star Wars. They just try to confuse you with number 4 now, A New Hope, 1977. The first scene in the first Star Wars is just magenta inserted all over the place regarding the laser blaster scenes between the Empire trying to get on Leia's ship and that scene down the white corridor. No, that's not retrocausality. That's not bleeding through reality. Sinister Disney went and changed the opening scene. Now, that proves our point right there about sinister intent. Who would go back and spend millions and tens of millions of dollars adding magenta all over the opening scene when it doesn't improve anything? It's kind of nasty to look at. It's not necessary. If you want to go back and refine the old to 4K or 8K, go back and make it 4K and 8K. To add layers of magenta, I mean, for what? I know, again, my friend and family, they would never, ever agree with anything I'm saying. They would say, well, maybe it didn't come out the way they wanted, Matt, but of course, they just tried to enhance the opening scene with a little color. Don't you think it was a little too white? They just wanted to add the magenta. It's not sinister. Why do people always go there? They'll never see it. It's just, go watch the first scene of the 1977 Star Wars. The amount of, I've shown it to you in the last few months. There's no point in doing this. It just, unless there's something else to it. The use of the color magenta is so all over the place, say since 2020. It is surprising why the people around us just don't notice it, or have they ever commented on it. Does my friend Tony see it? I mean, we started talking about this a year and a half ago. It was all over the place. And I keep going back to the Super Bowl, but I've never seen a bigger... I mean, it's in the logo of the Super Bowl. It's in the commercials. It's in magenta status. It's all... How come normal people around us, we're not normal. We're off the ship of fools. That's considered abnormal. That's a badge we like to wear. But how come they don't say... Are they saying it in their living rooms, crunching their popcorn? What? Or, honey, have you noticed there's been a lot of magenta? Oh, yeah. And then they'll just say, that's why it's the damn... color of the year, the Pantone color of the year. They can reference it. Well, it's just a fad right now, honey. It's just hot right now. Didn't you know it was Pantone's color of the year? Oh, yeah, it'll go away. Maybe it'll be like dark brown will be the color next year. It's just a fad, and we're just one of those people. We know it existed, of course, prior to 2020, but it never was a popular color. Never was that popular. Sure, some magenta would pop up from time to time. It wasn't in the old original Crayola 64 crayon box. It does show up, I think, as early as the early 70s or something, or the late 60s. It does show up in the box much earlier, a magenta crayon, than we would expect. The Nick Cage movie, The Color Out of Space, the H.P. Lovecraft book adaptation, like I've mentioned recently, he's talking to the authorities of what happened. A meteorite strikes and all this magenta starts to, go all over the place. Magenta lightning and magenta beams through the window. And he's like, it was a pinkish color. And then he says, I don't even really know what color it was. It was like something I've never seen before. Something I've never seen before. I mean, is that the exact words that the H.P., like I've said recently, the H.P. Lovecraft's book, did it mention that? But I don't think H.P. Lovecraft had magenta in mind. It doesn't seem so, or it would be featured on one of the covers, and it's not. So in a modern adaptation of a movie, Nicolas Cage, you're allowed to change line by line. I mean, to make it modern. He's saying, I've never really even seen the color before. What? How's that? Everybody would know it's magenta. I'm just saying it obviously wasn't that popular at all before 2020. Of course, looking into magenta itself, the story just gets stranger and stranger. I'm sure you're not surprised. It has weird properties that make no sense. It's said to be the very opposite of the emerald green, but it's also somewhat established and accepted that it has no wavelength, or technically doesn't exist. Well, how's that? It's the ultimate optical illusion because our mind is said to fill in a color that's not really there. Anybody surprised that because of all the sinister ways it's being used, there's all this creepiness in terms of investigating or researching the color itself? I mean, this is just the back end of the story that we all could predict, right? It really doesn't make sense that they say magenta has no wavelength or is like an illusion, your mind and eyes filling in what's not really there, because everything we can see, other than what they say about this, has a frequency assigned to it. That's why we can see it inside of a certain range. It has a wavelength, everything we can see, somewhere inside the Roy G. Biv. If you get too far on one side of the Roy G. Biv, it's called infrared, you can't see it. If you get too far along the other side of the Roy G. Biv, it's called ultraviolet, can't see it. But in the range, if it doesn't make any sense. If you can see it, it would have to be in the range and would have to have a wavelength or a frequency of some kind. But they say it doesn't. It's guys, all I'm saying is I'm not surprised the back end of the story is so strange. For the not know to be doing something, or for us to think certain things about the magenta, the reality itself is going to see to this. The backstory is always going to be strange. It kind of confirms what we sniff out about it to begin with. And it's being confirmed by the back end story breaking down. You see what I'm saying? I don't know. I've done this so many years. It's just par for the course. Did I expect the magenta to have a completely normal story? No, that's basically what I'm saying. The other thing is, how is it the opposite of the emerald green if it has no wavelength or doesn't exist? It just doesn't make any sense. Look, all these details don't matter. A creepy backstory kind of justifies what we're saying up front. In some way, their use of the magenta, their use of the color from outer space, aids the reality they want to build somehow. That's all we need to know. There's no doubt about that. Exactly how, we'll never know. Stop speculating. The magenta also is bleeding into reality, in my opinion. To many of us, this is now obvious in viewing digital forms of art like movies and old music videos and things like that. The amount of magenta used, let's just take one classification, old music videos, it's so prominent, it's so off the charts if you go watch old music videos. This could never be proven. It's like there's just no way it was that popular. I'm not going to say I don't remember that video being like that. It also seems to have a retrocausal property where I expect someone to tell me the video's always been like that, Matt. But just videos popping to my mind. The Eagles, I can't tell you why. Studio session where they're just talking and getting ready to play for 2 or 3 minutes of the video before the magenta lighting. I've shown it to you in video. It's all over the place. There's live performances from Lisa Stansfield where the prominent light is the magenta, but it's not magenta reflected on her. She's not covered in a reddish pink on stage, but the lighting behind her when the camera's shooting up. I saw a recent video of the Smiths and Morrissey. I was looking for a job and then I found a job, and heaven knows I'm miserable. I'm miserable now. It's the live performance on the one of the British pop shows. It's just magenta lighting everywhere. What is it? Spandau Ballet. True. Ha 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 hi. Sorry. It has the magenta hue over. Guys, this didn't exist when we first saw it. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it's in the digital video, what we watch now on YouTube. If you were in that studio in 1985, 1978, whatever it was, there may be a few magenta lights mixed among many others, but magenta was not prominent, in my opinion, if you were in that studio. You have Nick Cage in a 2020 movie saying, I don't even know what the color was. Oh, so now we come up with 1,000 times magenta was prominent in old music videos, and Nick Cage in 2020 has never seen the color before. Maybe it is from the original H.P. Lovecraft, but okay, let's move on. How, or if the magenta is bleeding into our physical reality, as I believe it is impossible to prove, of course, like a Mandela effect. It's impossible to prove. Okay, I did the best I could. I'll move on. If I haven't convinced you, I haven't convinced you. Haven't shown you all the examples. Don't have time to. In a way, though, it's similar to a Mandela effect, in my opinion, with retrocausal properties, where people may go look at the Eagles video, I Can't Tell You Why, or Spandau Ballet, and somebody might say to Ballet, Spandau Ballet, and they say to me, what the hell? Matt, I remember the video was always like that. If it's like a Mandela effect, I believe you. Maybe it was always like that. Mandela effect has retrocausal properties. Someone says, there was no change. I remember it as a kid. Then they don't understand the Mandela effect. It was always like that. It ripples back through time. If it bleeds into reality with retrocausal properties, then I agree. The Eagles video was always like that. I'm still proposing it wasn't, if that makes any sense. With the legitimacy of if something is a certain Mandela effect, or potentially could apply to the magenta, it doesn't matter if you remember it being a certain way and you're sure it was that way. It still could be a Mandela effect. If you keep holding on to it was like that as a kid, there was no change, you don't understand what we're talking about then. It's amazing how many Mandela affected people that research the topic don't understand that basic part of it. To me, the magenta represents the digital and not the analog. The analog is closer to the real world, yet in some cases the analog is still a copy or a simulacra, if you will. Has the magenta color always been part of the aurora borealis in the real world, along with the emerald green color? Or is this a Mandela effect type of change with retrocausal properties in something that's, say, really in the atmosphere, not on a digital copy on YouTube somewhere? Look, who knows? Our sample size is now very large regarding the old movies and old YouTube videos taking on a, to us, new degree of magenta. We're very convinced that this magenta appearing with prominence is really happening. Other researchers believe this magenta color was always there in reality, and there's metaphysical changes to all of us, to real people, that say allow the color to now be seen by us, or seen in a different way maybe, where in the past it could not be seen to the same degree by us. So a different filter we're carrying, or a different interpretation of something that always was. It's a different way of looking at it. It's very interesting. This interpretation would be more about our new perception. This is not as crazy as it sounds. Remember, we take in about 1% across the senses, 1% of the information available. Human beings can't see the infrared spectrum or the ultraviolet. What if someday we evolved in a way where we can see the ultraviolet, or could see the infrared, or devolve to see new things, if you see what I mean? Perhaps there's been a change in us that affects our perception, and now the magenta seems to be everywhere where it wasn't, but it was there always, but it wasn't perceived by us to be all around. Look, okay, I understand this is getting very strange, confusing, in the weeds. As usual, there's a very simple summary. We're going to go into these strange places. Do you come here for soup and saltine recipes? No, we come here for the biggest of thinking. We're going to be wrong a lot. Always bring it back to the simple, and it always does come back to the simple. We're not like jury-rigging it to make it simple because we're too stupid. It always comes back to the simple. Doesn't matter if you understand this or not. I guarantee the last few sentences will tie everything together. If you're thinking this topic is a bit scary, if you're new here and you're asking, what do I do about this? All this magenta, what am I going to do about it? Then you haven't been with us very long. People here see through the trick. It's all a few sentences, very simple. They're wearing their armor now. They've polished their sword. They've oiled their sword. Real people that have been here a while say, it's interesting to notice what they're doing, Matt, but there's nothing that I need to do about it. I see through it. It doesn't work on me. We should observe the tactics of the creeps. Why not? For anything, it's fun. For anything, we get a couple laughs out of a video like this. But the old guard says, what do I need to do about it? I need to go reread the Tibetan Book of the Dead? No, there's nothing you need to do about it. You see through the trick and you laugh at it. It doesn't work on you. There's nothing you need to do but continue to work on yourself. You evolve your perception through the worry about yourself activities, the part 2 of the work. The trick gets more and more feeble. It's fun to talk about it. If they're trying to change reality itself using a color, we need to talk about it, at least. I know. In terms of people saying, well, Matt, you're helping manifest it. No, through affirmation and through intention, we don't ever give it power when we talk about it. Say that as many times. I'll say it when I'm done this video. We can talk about it. It's putting the damn magenta up in my business all day long, in my face all day long. I'm allowed to talk about it, and I don't give it any power or help manifest it by talking about it. Why? Because I said so. Once you see any part of the trick, the winning is up to you. It's not up to the trickster. That's the beauty of it. There's nothing you need to do but to live your life the right way. There's no formula or counter spell you've got to push back on the magenta with. You don't have to do anything. Okay, I've said that. They can't stop you from doing what you need to do. When you observe any part of the trick, simply acknowledge that you see that part of the trick. That's what I do. We don't even have to do that anymore. Remove its power by saying it doesn't work on you, and continue to do that and say it doesn't work on anybody. You can help everybody else out. Take its power away from everything if you can. I wouldn't scream out at the Starbucks when they hand you a big magenta paper cup, some gigantic loud affirmation so everybody looks at you and the security guard moves over to throw you out. You don't need to do that. A silent recognition. Oh, that's the trick. We don't even need to do that, but I think it's probably good to do that. What you have to do is always simple. Don't need to go find some 1,000-page grimoire and hang upside down to counter the magenta. Do you think the power is in you, or do you think the power is in magenta, or do you think the power is in some book that's going to tell you what you need to do? Yeah, it's in you. That's why the whole trick is focused on you. What do they want you to believe? They want you to believe you have nothing, you have no power, and you need them. The entire reality is structured this way. It's first grade, the rule of opposites. Neil, grass eating, that's a new one. Neil, grass eating, says that I'm nuttin'. You're nuttin', honey. You're a side effect of the Big Bang. So then it's the rule of opposites. We know how powerful we are. It really is that simple. If you didn't understand parts of this magenta presentation, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything, but notice the trick and continue part 2, the work. Why are you here? Next question from the book. Matt, what is this word initiation that is thrown around so much in our community in the videos we watch, mostly related, it seems, to secret societies and occult practices? Yeah, I have always loathed the word initiation. I watched a video recently on the Rosicrucians. Okay, what's this all about? I watch these videos from time to time. Manly P. Hall lectures, etc. The word in the video on the Rosicrucians, the word initiation and the initiate was used, 100 or more times in a short video. Let me get right to the summary right now, and we'll continue into the details, but the summary first. I'm not here to be initiated into anything. I'm here to understand myself and to do the part 2 activities, the work, to give my spiritual part of me what it needs from this short life, to do it on my own, to do the you-know-what, the worry about yourself activities. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Worry about yourself. To do it properly, like the little girl Rose showed us. She's trying to fasten her seatbelt. The your is emphasized. Worry about yourself. Yes, that's what you need to emphasize to do it properly. You can do it any way you want. It's not a grimoire, right? But worry about yourself. The your goes up. We want to do it the way Rose taught us how to do it when she was trying to fasten the seatbelt. The father says, "What do you want me to do? Worry about yourself?" Anyway, that's the way I adopted it. You can say whatever you want. The word initiation and the use in these contexts, at least the way it's been exposed to me, seems to always be about a person undergoing a process, or they're given a new ken of knowledge, a range of what to do in life that came from somewhere or someone else. That's the key. The initiate didn't start the secret society that they're engaging in or whatever they're being initiated into. And it's not just secret societies. Some would say going K through 12 school is an initiate. Everything, we'll get to that. Okay, obviously, just the way we've been exposed to it more in my recent videos about the Rosicrucian. The initiate learns this and that. Okay, it is a lot of things this society wants to initiate you into. That's why I don't like the word. That's where this presentation will go in a minute or two. Kindergarten through 12th grade, public school and initiation? Of course it is. Catholic school and initiation? Of course it is. Undergraduate doctorate work at a university? Of course it is. Like everything is. That's why I reject it all. But in terms of whatever their club or secret society they're trying to get into, they didn't make it up themselves. It didn't come from within, did it? They initiate as they're presented with books. And here's what you need to do. And here are the steps. And here's what you need to do next. And they take on a belief set that came from somewhere else. I don't want to take on anything that came from somewhere else. That's not worry about yourself. That's somewhere else. And I don't trust the somewhere else where it came from. That's someone else or where it came from. Like Rodney Dangerfield said in Back to School, could have been a maniac. Remember in Back to School? He says, "Why are you buying used books, Jason?" Well, used books, they've already been underlined. He said, person that underlined those books may have been a maniac. You don't know where it's come. Trust yourself. And is there anybody right now trying to say, well, Matt, you give advice? Oh my goodness, here we go again. I've got to say, first off, like I've said many times, I'm basically only telling you or waking you up to what you already know. A reminder to get inner knowing, inner tuning fork. You're not saying, oh, Matt says this. What's happening is sometimes I'll say something and you'll say, yeah, that's right. Your inner knowing is, am I telling you also to go perform steps? I'm saying the worry about yourself, the part 2, the work is yours and yours alone. You have to figure that out. Am I going to tell you what to do? Like an initiation steps that don't put this on me in any way. You should be ashamed of yourself. Sorry. As usual, in terms of the word initiation, I don't care what the word means to most people, groups, clubs, societies. I don't care what Google will tell me about it or what the chat GPT will say about it. I don't care. Away from the secret society context, to me, the word initiation represents what this reality attempts to do to real people. Last section, an initiation into the digital world, right? It all ties into. It's usually rather nefarious. Sorry. Got the armor up, got the skeptic hat on regarding the word initiation. This reality wants you initiated into what it offers, into what it says is best. And every time I hear what is best, I'm going to go right back to Conan. Yeah, I'm going to do it. It's my favorite thing to do of all time. The whole scene is like, Daesh, we win again. But tell me, the guy that goes before Conan, tell me what is best in life. And I forget what the guy says. I'm doing this on the fly. He says, the wind, what's best in life? He says, the wind in your hair. the open step, a hawk on your wrist or on your arm. I don't know what he doesn't say. He doesn't mention a woman, that kind of concern. That is wrong. Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, to see them driven before you, and to hear lamentations of the women. That wasn't too good, but I'm not going to re-record. Conan was initiated via the Wheel of Pain into the life of basically being a gladiator. The whole reality tries to initiate everybody into every little thing. Your work training program, diversity training. You know what? Therefore, I reject all initiation. Because of the main component, the way I understand the definition of the word, it doesn't come from yourself. It doesn't come from it comes from somewhere else. Don't like that very much. Kevin Bacon in Animal House, bending over in the Omega House. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Oh, thank you, sir. May I have another? How's it feel to be an independent show? How's it feel to be an asshole? Niedermeyer, it's an initiation to the Omega House. The initiation to the Delta House was much different, yet still the same to some degree. Matt, stop with the endless movie scenes. It doesn't matter whether his Delta Tau guy name is Flounder, Pinto, whatever. Sorry. A politician swearing on his Bible to take an office is an initiation. A police graduation unit putting their hand up, reciting, or getting into the Marines. This is my rifle. There's none like. It's all an initiation. This reality loves it. Harry Potter, Harry Potter's not in this reality, I know, but it's a related topic. Harry Potter becoming a member of Gryffindor, an initiation. The promotion in a giant, horrible corporation to AVP in a biotech company, an initiation. Okay, you get the point. But the way reality presents itself, oh yeah, these initiations over here, Matt, they're very bad. Look what we have over here. This initiation candy over here. These are very good. These are good over here. Oh, these are bad. Matt, you should take the whole channel should be about determining which initiations are good and which are bad. You know what? I'll just take the easy route out and say, worry about yourself. And I don't think any of them are good, but maybe that's just my idiot little interpretation. A few weeks ago, I found a card in a drawer from high school that said National Honor Society. Even that, of course, is an initiation of sorts, of course, as is the black robes, etc. Now, when I look around and see most initiations in this world are part of the trick, then I'm skeptical of the ones that they say are good. You see how that works? And what do you think I did with that National Honor Society card? Anybody think I framed it? Right in the trash. We don't need to do this sort of thing anymore. We've said all our affirmations, etc., but it's fun to do. So I held the card, and I was like, oh, this is just one more tie, one more Jacob Marley chain, one more tie to this world. Not really, but collectively it is a chain. Collectively, all the things it has us involved in, all the things it says are good and that we give energy to. So did I have to do that? Matt, would you have been doomed to hell if you didn't throw out your National Honor Society card? No. Well, Matt, when you trashed it, did you feel a weight lifted? No. But it's fun to do. And I hope I find more shit that I was tied into that I can throw in the trash. Quick note for what's coming. I'm going to use Ultra Hobo Code on this. There's no reason to, I don't even want a banner ad. There's just, okay. We're talking about certain lifestyle choices or certain people not knowing about what bathroom. Okay. In terms of those people over the last 15 years, what that has evolved into, the lifestyle choice from San Francisco, as well as the whole flipping of the bathroom thing, what that has evolved to is an initiation. It's no longer about what two men do in private. That is not what society wants these people to participate in. They want people being a certain tag and representing that tag. That tag in 2023, 2024 means taking on all of what the not milk descriptor dictates or requires from those that have that tag, outlining what a man or a woman who has made those choices must be, how they must present themselves to modern society in a modern world. How you must vote if you wear that label or tag. What bands you must listen to or at least must support. What Hollywood actors or activists you must support if you wear that tag or banner. It's the biggest initiation of all time these people have fell for. You have no choice. You must accept the entire alphabet soup. You must take in and love all your LGBT, A, B, C, all the letters. You are one. Don't get out of line. The initiation says, don't you dare get out of line. all your non-binary brothers, you are all one. And you know what? They march together. Maybe, I take it back, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30 probably thinks for themselves and says, you know what, I like, they're full, they don't study reality the way they do, so they may say, I like the Republican candidate. I'm going to vote Republican. Of course, that one side has been set up to support lifestyle choices. The other side is supposed to be opposed to. Of course, it's we don't need to do first grade sidebars here. Everybody is on the same page here. Okay, but 1 out of 20 or 30 probably think for themselves. All the other initiates, they bow down to whatever that the group is supposed to do. We know what they're supposed to do, so they certainly know what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to act, and what they're supposed to support, and almost none of them get out of line. All right, let's close with a bit of common sense. Let's not take this too far. Somebody's saying, well, Matt, I didn't realize what you were saying. I mean, my niece volunteers with the 4-H club outside of Birmingham, Alabama. Maybe I should really push her to get out of it. No, okay, no. If she volunteers at the 4-H club, whatever, it's okay. It's okay. Somebody participates in the Puerto Rican Day Parade. I don't like camps and segmentation, but it's okay. It's okay. Let's not take it too far either. But in terms of, let's bring it back to where it started. I watched that video on the Rosicrucian, certain secret society, and certain clubs want to, for some reason, feel, and people believe in order to do what they need to do in life, or do they promise some sort of reward upon death and initiation into some of these secret societies? I don't know. I don't want to know. But to me, I don't want to be part of any of it. I see no need in any of it. In fact, all of it interferes with the worry about yourself activities we're supposed to do here. You know what we're supposed to know? Not some book that I was handed by a club. You're supposed to know yourself. And initiation does not apply to oneself. Matt, your higher self's trying to initiate you. No, it's not. That oneself or relationship with higher self or the part of you that's not here, pick another word. Pick another word. Doesn't apply to you or aspects of your spiritual self. Okay, we've already broadened the word initiation enough. What you need to do for yourself, no, it's not an initiation. I reject all of it. And to close, I can't ignore the elephant in the room. I hear certain people screaming at me, pro and con, big religion, your Catholic Church, or your Christian religion, or whatever it may be. An initiation to me, of course it is. I hear you. That's the one initiation. That's okay. Okay, I'm not trying to change your belief set. There's very few people here that are Catholic. You want to talk about religious initiations? Look at the Catholic Church and say First Communion, taking the little one in before they can even think for themselves. And you want to talk about initiation? First Communion for the little one in the Catholic Church? You better believe it is. Many do it. I'm not an expert in the other religions. I didn't take no comparative religion class at Penn State. Not that I would have learned anything anyway, but a Jewish bar mitzvah? Yeah, okay. I think the point is clear. Let's move on to another question. What is the English language? What is the English language? The guy from Skokie right now is like, what? This presenter's lost his mind. No, actually not the guy from Skokie that's part of our group, the fictitious guy, the newbie from Skokie that I talk with. There's people from Skokie, at least one guy from Skokie that's like old guard or something. I don't mean you, sir. What is the English language? Real spiritual beings are essential in helping to create reality. The, quote, romance languages are not just a way to communicate. They're used to affect reality and influence people in ways we don't fully understand. The Nikola Tesla truth drop said that to understand the universe, think in terms of frequency, vibration, or resonance, or something like that. The English language is designed to aid the frequency of reality creation to favor the not nilk. Let me repeat that. The English language is designed to aid the frequency of reality creation for the not nilk. Well, Matt, by that implies that the English language was laid down first and was given to people. Didn't it just evolve? And it was the other way around. People started grunting something that, like it was something like a hot dog, a rolled sausage, and someone, hot dog, then that became hot dog. Didn't you see the beginning of 2001, A Space Odyssey? Then it was then accepted that grunt became hot dog, hot dog. No, the words were given to the people. It works the other way around. People just think grunts turned into language we know now. But you know what? This is so easy to prove say to the normal people around us, none of these people around us have ever thought about it for a second. Yes, person from Skokie, the languages were laid down in advance so the human being can influence reality, build reality in a way the creeps want it built. The English language is a gigantic part of the master trick, and it is used to further corrupt the people who use it in a certain way without knowledge of what is really going on. We can transmute it. We can take the power away from it via intention and affirmation like we do in everything else. For example, we've been taught to say the following when we mess up, right? You know what I'm going to say. Oh, it's okay if I messed up a bit. I'm only human. After listening to these chapters, I bet you can see the trick in that, can't you? I'm only human. Oh, a dooming of oneself through language. How unfortunate. Sorry, no, we're much more than human, not milk. I don't even pronounce the word the way they want it pronounced anyway. Not that I need to do it this way because it gives them power. I think it's kind of funny at this point. I'm not afraid to pronounce human. See, I just did human. What happened? Nothing. I say human just because I know they want people to say human. That degrades the person through language itself. No doubt about it. What I like to do regarding the language trick here is I'll catch myself saying these sorts of degrading things all the time. So maybe I'll say a few months ago, I'm only human, and then I'll catch myself, of course, and then I'll do a little affirmation. I'll say, you know what? I see the trick in that. I see the trick in the use of language. And by the way, I've said these sorts of things. You do a general affirmation. I've said them several times, several thousand times when I was part of the Matrix, when I was fooled. And it was all part of a trick. Therefore, I rescind all of it, and it had no power over me, and I take it all back, or what? I don't know the right words, but you know what I mean. If I catch myself doing it, then I say, whenever I've done this in the past or said this, I rescind its meaning and intention. And it's easy to rescind because it was done under duress, if that's the right word. It was done when I was being fooled by a trick. Now, in terms of what's being said here, I mean, the old guard is like, of course, that's what language is. I wouldn't have to convince them for 2 seconds. If the first graders sneak in and they're a little skeptical, come on, Matt. All of language laid down in advance. Doesn't a conspiracy ever end, Matt? Little skeptical. Look, we could go off to, if this was like a real Amish classroom, we could go off to the side, do a little sidebar. I could tutor you on all the ways language is used to screw with the real spiritual being, and so the real spiritual being chooses to F over itself. But I'll give you some examples now. I can't interrupt the whole class for you. If you're not on board, you're not on board. But, pay attention to how language is used. Talk about spellcraft. It's even called spelling. Throw an S on the beginning of the word, W-R-D, and you have sword, sticks and stone. Okay, we could do this all day long. It's like the electric company. Remember that shit with Morgan Freeman? It was Sesame Street was first when I grew up as a kid in the 70s, then Mr. Rogers, then the electric company. And they would whisper 2 words, great, not milk, not milk. I don't think they ever did that one. So there's some of the old Jordan Maxwell stuff is he was very good in this regard. The 20 to 30 words linking money and water. Originally, in my opinion, came from Jordan Maxwell. No, we don't need to do a sidebar who potentially was or was not Jordan Maxwell. We got a lot of good stuff out of him, and I'm glad Jordan was around, okay? I'm going to leave it like that. Leave old Jordan alone. So money and water, float alone. Are you liquid? Is your business underwater? Yeah, bang, currency. Yeah, we've all been through this, so we don't need to do it. But just the number of words that link water to money by itself gives intentional language away. I mean, by itself, forget the other 10,000 examples we could dive into. The fact that there's certain words in French and you can see the English in the French, but how did that come about? There could be an entire channel for 10 years dedicated to nothing other than this topic. But Matt, why don't you do it? Maybe I will. Maybe that's one of the things we'll do. It's fascinating. It really is. Modern language gets billions of real people a day. If that, we'll assume, most are real. We don't know. Billions potentially cast some sort of spell on behalf of not milk. Is anybody trying to tell me right now that I'm using words and I'm contributing to not know. First off, some phrases are more damning than others. And just having a general conversation, if we're noticing the trick, then we're using the words to our own benefit. And again, some things are more damning than other, like I'm only human. When people say that, we should do a whole video sometime, or put in the comments, start a list of what are all the damning phrases that the Not Milk has come up with. But yes, we will do affirmations. We don't give it energy when we talk about it. We've done all that. I do need to speak in English. So would this channel work for you? Here it is. Hi guys, it's Matt. Would that work? I'm just saying nothing. Would that work? Pootie Tang, Pootie Tang put out an album, and it sounded like. Have you seen the movie Pootie Tang? Here's what the album sounded like. And then Chris Rock says, as the DJ, he's funny as heck. I can't stand him. But he says, Pootie don't need no words. Pootie don't even need no music. Here's the new album from Pootie Tang. It just, nothing. It's a funny scene. I don't think I did it justice. Here's another one I've thought of that, came up big time for me a few years back when the damn electric box exploded many times. I got no power still today. I got no power. And I went, wait a second. Oh boy, this is a trick of the Not Milk saying I have no power. No, I have no electricity flowing into my home, so I can't make a video today or whatever. Never say I have no power. These sorts of things, and they're fun when you catch them. You can once every couple days you can catch yourself saying something in a certain way, and you go, ooh, bet the Not Milk loves a real being doing that. They're fun to catch. And you just say, you can do a general affirmation, say all these trick phrases. I nullify all of them. Just get, and we don't even need to do that. We see through that. We don't even need to do the affirmation. You don't need to do it. In a way, doing the affirmation actually lends credence or power to it. So we can disagree on that. I'll probably err on the side of saying, ooh, I just take back what I just said. I err on that side right now, but it's also fun too. Guys, to close, I've got a few comments recently. I don't understand. Somebody says, what is not milk or not? They don't even know the word I'm using. What is not milk? Well, if I was getting, 500 to 1,000 subscribers a month, and there was all sorts of new people, I understand that. But I didn't get an email recently, which probably means the subscriber count went down. Last time it was like 20 some in a month, and then it was 11 before that. So for 2 months, I'm averaging roughly 25 to 35 new subscribers for 2 months. So there's no bunch of new people coming here. So how could anybody not know what Not Milk is? We'll do a whole video though, just to refresh, sometime. But if you don't know what Not Milk is, you certainly don't know what the Pootie Tang Award is. Matt, it's broken down into nonsense. Yeah, it's over an hour. Anybody, we're pretty much done. The Pootie Tang Award, though, that is from the movie Pootie Tang. And it's somebody that states the obvious in the comments. So I've been looking at dark reality, 30, 40, 50 hours a week for 15 years. That's quite a bit of time put in. The old guard is, maybe you don't have a YouTube channel, but the old guard's been looking at it for at least 10 or more. There's some old guard that know a lot that only are, relatively new. I still call them old guard. But anyway, you have people that generally understand what's going on here. So somebody... there was a comment a few videos back. Yeah, and whatever they do, they try to take your energy. What? In whatever they do, they try to take your energy? Yeah. Pootie Tang Award. And that's because Pootie was real slick with the ladies, and Pootie's real hot and everything in the movie. And they're talking about all these exploits. So the three friends, they always talk. Chris Rock will step up. Pootie has 3 friends, and Pootie's so fly with the ladies. He's so down. He's so smooth with the ladies. I saw Pootie once go into a bar, and so many women brought him drinks they ran out of Cavassier. I'm making these up. The other friend would be like, well, I heard Pootie once flew into Las Vegas, and the Chippendale show immediately went out of business because they were all after Pootie. And the third guy comes over. Yeah, I got something about Pootie. Pootie's real good with the girls. He'll state the obvious, and it's not even exciting the way he That's what some of the commenters here do. Although there are some that actually are doing it on purpose now to get the Pootie Tang Award. There's nothing I mail out, guys. If you get the Pootie Tang Award, you're going to have to go out to the trophy shop on your own, or I don't know the shop that makes the bowling trophies or little trophies for the kids in the Little League. I don't know what you ask, how you're going to get that kind of trophy. Maybe you get a bowler and dress it up and sign a velvet or something. I don't know. I don't mail anything out when you get the award, just so you know. Thanks for listening.